Hello and welcome to our first story. Chapter 1. The Journal of Tomorrow. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Brandon adjusted his scrubs, the fabric stiff against his skin. It was a late shift at St. Michael's Hospital, the kind of night where the air felt thick with the weight of unspoken fears and whispered secrets. Brandon had been a nurse for nearly 5 years, and while he had seen his share of heart-wrenching moments, he was still drawn to the stories that unfolded within these walls. Every patient had a narrative, a life that had led them to this moment of vulnerability, and he found solace in being a part of their journeys. As he made his rounds, he glanced at the clock on the wall, its hands creeping toward midnight. The hospital was quieter now. The usual cacophony of beeping machines and distant conversations softened to a dull hum. He stepped into the break room, hoping for a moment of respite when he noticed a flicker of movement in the corner of his eye. A door to the hospital's archives stood ajar, an unusual sight at the hour. Curiosity piqued. Brandon walked over and pushed the door open. The air inside felt stale, heavy with the scent of old paper and dust. Shelves lined with yellowing files and forgotten medical records towered above him. He stepped inside, his heart racing with the thrill of discovery. As he scanned the room, something caught his eye. A leather-bound journal, its cover worn and cracked, sat precariously on a stack of old patient files, as if guarding secrets long forgotten. He reached for it, the weight of the book feeling oddly significant in his hands, as if it held the key to a hidden past. The journal was unmarked, but as he opened it, he was greeted by neat, precise handwriting that danced across the pages, whispering tales of mystery and intrigue. It was filled with entries that spanned what seemed like years, detailing the life of a woman named Dr. Harrison. The first entry was dated for the following day. As he read, he felt an inexplicable chill run down his spine. "Tomorrow, I will arrive at St. Michael's Hospital," it read. "I am aware of the risk, but I must fulfill my purpose. The future depends on it." Brandon's brow furrowed as he flipped through the pages, each entry revealing more about Dr. Harrison's life. She wrote about her work as a researcher, her experiments with time travel, and her determination to change the course of history. The entries were filled with scientific jargon that made Brandon's head spin, but one thing was clear: she was not just a doctor, she was a time traveler. The more he read, the more questions flooded his mind. How could someone from the future end up in a hospital in his time? Was it real, or was he simply losing his grip on reality after too many long shifts? He shook his head, trying to dispel the doubts that crept in. He was a nurse, not a conspiracy theorist. But the entries were too detailed, too vivid to dismiss as mere fiction. "Brandon?" A voice broke through his thoughts, pulling him back to the present. He turned to see Amanda, a fellow staff member who moonlighted as an investigative journalist. Her curly hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "What are you doing in here? You know this place gives me the creeps." He hesitated, unsure of how to explain the journal. "I found something unusual," he said, holding it out for her to see. Amanda's eyes widened as she took the journal from him, her fingers brushing over the cover. "What is this?" she asked, flipping through the pages. "It looks ancient. Wait, is this handwriting? It's so neat." "It belongs to a Dr. Harrison," Brandon replied, watching her reactions closely. "She claims to be a time traveler. The first entry says she's arriving tomorrow." Amanda raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched on her face. "A time traveler? Come on, Brandon, you can't be serious. I know it sounds crazy, but read it for yourself," he urged, his voice low. "She talks about changing the course of history, about a future that depends on her arrival here." Amanda's expression shifted as she read the entries aloud, her voice echoing in the quiet room. The more she read, the more her skepticism faded, replaced by a growing intrigue. "If this is true, if she really is coming tomorrow, then we need to find her. We have to know what she's planning." Brandon nodded, his heart racing. The implications of Dr. Harrison's arrival weighed heavily on him. What could she possibly change? And why was she coming to St. Michael's? Let's keep this between us for now, he suggested, glancing around the dimly lit room as if expecting someone to overhear. We can't let anyone else know until we figure out what's really going on. Amanda agreed, her journalist instincts kicking in. If this is real, it could be a huge story, but we need to be careful. If she's as secretive as her journal suggests, we might be stepping into something much bigger than we realize. As they left the archives, the weight of the journal felt heavier in Amanda's hands. They made their way back to the nurses' station, the flow of the monitors illuminating their path. Brandon's mind raced with possibilities, and he couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow would change everything. The night wore on, and as Brandon prepared for his next round, he couldn't help but glance at the clock. Time seemed to crawl, each tick echoing in his mind like a countdown to an impending storm. He felt a strange connection to Dr. Harrison, as if her fate was intertwined with his own. What if she really could change the course of history? What if her arrival meant something far greater than they could comprehend? As the hours passed, Brandon and Amanda exchanged glances, their unspoken agreement lingering in the air. They would wait for Dr. Harrison, and when she arrived, they would be ready. The hospital, once a place of healing, now felt like a stage set for a drama that had yet to unfold. And so, as the first light of dawn began to creep through the windows, Brandon stood at the threshold of an unknown future, the journal still echoing in his thoughts. Tomorrow would bring a visitor from the future, and with her arrival, the fabric of reality itself could be rewritten. Please feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. Chapter 2 will be coming soon. Like and subscribe.